Good evening, and welcome to the 16th Annual Sconset History Night. My name is Hannah Judy, and I am a full-time year-round resident of Sconset. This annual talk, as well as the Siasconset Historical Research Group, were founded by my late father, Paul Judy, whose devotion to and encyclopedic knowledge of Sconset history was legendary. After a number of years of running this annual evening, my dad passed the baton to Bob Felch, and Rob Benchley joined the team in 2017 as photo researcher, editor, and projectionist. Bob then passed the baton to me and Rob, and this is the third Sconset History Night we've organized. While we love being co-captains of this historical ship, we need more hands on deck. Imagine yourself up here at the podium next summer, having delved into and written some fascinating topic of Sconset history, or perhaps you'd like to become the photo editor. We love the show of community spirit that you evidence by showing up here each year, but we'd also like to invite you to roll up your sleeves and do some of the work. Those of you who attended last year's talk clearly enjoyed the input of other voices. I've left a pad of paper on the snack table and a couple of pens. Rob's email address and my email address and phone number to text or call are at the top of the pad. Feel free to take a screenshot of our contact information, or you can write your name and phone number or email and we'll contact you. You could come up with your own potential topic idea, or we'd be happy to supply you with some ideas. We've already floated a few ideas for next summer. 100 years of electricity in Sconset. That would be an electrifying topic. Or the history of the Wade cottages, which, as you know, are on the market. Or the derivation of our street names. Or perhaps you'd like to present a history of your Sconset neighborhood or street. Or research a single figure in Sconset history. We need your help to continue this effort. And before I introduce our speakers, two more things. From now on, we will be BYO H2O permanently. Better for the planet, better for us, and we have excellent town water. I'm not going to speak about the private well issues. Second, in keeping with our 2023 topic of the history of the Sconset Post Office, please be aware that Sabrina, our current postal clerk, is still in need of housing. It is difficult with a cat and a toddler to find anything, so please let her know if you have anything to offer or any leads. We are delighted to have two speakers tonight. Rob Benchley will speak first, and then Snookie Eldridge will make some remarks, and then Rob will resume, and then there will be a bit of time for Q&A. Rob was supposed to give me a bio, but he was so busy researching that didn't happen. But you all know Rob. He's a photographer, a videographer, the keeper of our lighthouse, and he wears many, many hats in our village. And the Benchley family name is virtually synonymous with Sconset history. Benchleys have been here since 1920, so that's over 100 years. Now, Snookie, I do have some bio information on, provided by Rob. Nelson Snookie Eldridge, Pyrofax gas man, captain on the Nantucket and Sconset fire departments, master plumber, and jack of all Sconset trades, knows the water department well. His first job at the age of 16 was keeping the kerosene pumps running all night at the Sconset Water Department, where his father was superintendent. All these years later, he's still very much involved, being a longtime commissioner for the Wannacomet Water Company and a senior Sconset member of the recently created Nantucket Water Commission. But then there's the fact that Snookie is sort of the self-proclaimed mayor of Sconset, as the oldest native-born Sconseter who lives here full-time. Have I got that right, Snookie? And so now, on to tonight's talk, connections. 100 years with the Siasconset Water Department, asides, wanderings, and miscellaneous diversions. Please welcome Rob Benchley.
Hello, everybody. It's a good-looking house, and I love being here because I get to eat Cheetos. Cheetos. Yeah, so this will be different because in our house we do things differently, and so I'll start off by saying that the 100 years is a little bit off because really Sconset Water started with our pump square, which is 249 years old. It'll be 250 next year. It was a central gathering place. It was a place where actually people posted notes, they met, but the main thing was water. And Sconset Water is pretty important because it's a very popular place, and you can't do much without water. Oh, look, that just came up. Asides, wanderings, and miscellaneous diversions. In doing some research for this, the rabbit holes that exist when going through anything about anywhere, they're really distracting, and I went down some of those rabbit holes. So we're kind of all over the place. But we need to thank the Nantucket Historical Association, and particularly their research library. They have an amazing collection of photographs, and they're all available, or most of them are available online. They've got a tremendous search engine, so you can type in something like Sconset Pump and all these crazy things come up. Hence a rabbit hole going on that website. And then the Nantucket Athenaeum Library has recently rejuvenated their digital newspaper database, primarily the Enquirer and Mirror. A few years ago, they had about 3 or 4 different island newspapers, but this time they've only got the Enquirer and Mirror, which is good. Excuse me. There again, it's a very searchable database. You can type in your own name and see what comes up. It might be somebody you know, but mixing the two of them together in any kind of research project is really amazing, and it takes about a year. Also, I'd like to thank the Sconset Trust and the Nantucket Preservation Trust for getting the word out. And also NCTV, thank you, Frank, for taping this show. And the Historical Association will be making a tape of this that'll be available on their website. And of course, a big thanks to the Sconset Casino. It's just what an amazing place we have here. Think of all the things that we do here and have done here over the years. I started off in a career in the theater, and my first theater experience was on that stage. I used to sweep it when I was like 6. Oh, right. So here's the question of the night. Everybody raise your hand. Who's ever climbed the Sconset Water Tower? There's 1. There's 2. Really? Okay, there's 3. Well, there used to be a light bulb on the top of it, and with a red light, and the dare was to climb up there and unscrew it and bring it down. I never did that myself. I really didn't. Actually, I only went up there when I was allowed to. So it's been about 25 years. I got approached by Jerry Eldridge to join the Siasconset Water Commission. He was getting ready to retire, and they needed some fresh blood there, and I said, yeah, why not? And so I didn't go to meetings for the first 3 months because I didn't know I had to, but it's been quite a ride, and so that's part of the reason I'm here, is that I know a few things about this, but the Eldridges know everything. So Snookie, feel free to stand up and say something if I make a mistake. So here's the Sconset Pump. And hard to tell when this picture was taken. except that the L.W. Wentworth is a clothing store in New Bedford, and it was in the 1900s. So, but anyway, it's a setup shot, and everything's great. And it shows up. This was in a September 18th, 1897 issue of the Enquirer-Mirror, and it was sort of a special issue. And what they did is somebody found a list of all the people who donated money to fund the first Sconset pump in 1776. And those are all the names, and well, there are most of them. And it turned out to be 160 different people. And they put up 20 pounds, 4 shillings and 9 pence, which, I don't know, in today's dollars is about $5,500. So not a bad deal for a well that has lasted almost 250 years. So here's a picture of Pump Square taken from, I think, the roof of what's now the Sconset Trust building. And it's really hard to see it. And so what I've done in most of these cases, if a photo exists on the Nantucket Historical Association website, I'll enhance it so that we can see it. Now, I know some people say, well, that's, AI or that's interfering, but, isn't that much better than... So this is for instructional and amusement purposes only. Anyway, so what a great picture of the square. You can see the pump there and some ladies standing around and the ubiquitous horse and wagon. And some of the older surrounding buildings, of course, that little white building there, I'll show you what that is in a few minutes. So here's let's see, I've got to go, okay, here we go. Very photographed item by many photographers, and during that period, they used cameras with glass negatives in them, so they're on tripods, and it's very slow film, and so everybody has to stand still. So in a lot of these pictures, people look like they're pretty rigid. Now the guy in the middle holding the picture probably stood there for about 4 or 5 seconds while his picture was taken. So spontaneity is not totally available. So in my research, I haven't even talked about the water company yet, because 1903 is a little further down the line. But I was looking through the Enquirer-Mirror, and I came across a woman named Isabel Harris Barr. Now, she was a poet, born in 1900, and she was a noted poet and playwright and president of the Women's Poets of New York, the author of 5 volumes of poetry and 2 books of one-act plays. One of her plays, Jericho Road, was made into a biblical opera by her composer husband, Pietro Aria. And she and her family were abject lovers of Nantucket and Sconset, and many of her Nantucket-themed poems can be found sprinkled around the back issues of the Enquirer-Mirror, and I just stumbled across them quite by chance. And this is where I found the poem that I'll be quoting here. Oh, and let me ask you something. Is Nicole Barr here? Hi, Nicole. So Isabel Harris Barr is Nicole Barr's former mother-in-law. And just all these connections. Remember we were talking about connections. Hang on one second. Isabel's name came up a few weeks ago, and Nicole gave me this book. And it's titled The Dialogue Without End, and there's some beautiful Nantucket poems in here, and they're wry and smart and kind of creepy. Okay. All right. It's called Pump Square, Sconset, and It was written in the 60s, but she directed it towards the people of the 1800s. Come and get your water at the pump. A penny a pail is fair. You'll find the water's clean and good as windswept Sconset air. Come hear the village chat at noon and add the bit you choose to hearsay, fantasy, or fact. The pump square gushes news. Come trade your ideas at the pump or listen to your neighbors. If you're feuding, now is your chance to sharpen rusty sabers. And we're going to continue that a little later. Have you had your fill of photographs of the Sconset pump? There it is again. And you know, the Sconset pump, it's an enduring thing, right? This was just like last month. I think we need a little repair in the near corner. But I don't think the pump works, no. But the well is still there. Okay, well, let's get back to some things about the photography. Here's a nice photograph that was taken from a rooftop near across the market, looking across Pump Square by Henry S. Wire, who was a very important and famous local Nantucket photographer. And you can see, and he had to carry his gear up onto the roof. The two figures he had stand there were moving. It's okay. We can see him okay. You can see the coroner's house. Also, it was also called Meerheim Cottage. And there's the Sconset Trust building, and the building closest to us is In and Out. And Sconset's looking pretty rustic right there. That's long before much of anything was here, except a pretty vital community. And so in looking, I wanted to know what that building was over on the left. So I started looking through the NHA website looking for different photographs, and I'm not sure who took this photograph, but there again, it's set up. Obviously, the people on the roof, they're posing, and the guy in the mask, I don't know what he's doing. But there's a sign on that building, and so I zoomed in on it, and it turns out that it's an ice cream parlor. Ice cream saloon. So I go back to the database of the Athenaeum Library newspapers, and I look up ice cream saloon, and I get ice cream saloon at Siasconset. Mrs. Alfred Folger, Jr., and this was Sconset, June 29th, 1872. That's pretty darn early. So 1872 is sort of a monumental year because Sconset was being discovered by, today we'd call them developers. Then I think the general idea was that anything we can do to get Nantucket out of its rut is to encourage real estate development. And this particular one is our friend, wait a minute, I gotta find my notes here. There we go. Anyway, Charles H. Robinson, and boasting about all these lots along Ocean Avenue. Regular stage communication is established with the town of Nantucket through the summer, and passengers can be taken to Sunset Heights directly from the steamer on arrival. Let all who are in the search of a place where they can find all the delights of a summer residence by the seaside at a very low price. House lots, 50 by 75 feet. They will be offered to the purchasers at prices ranging from $100 to $250. So we all know Charles Robinson's impact on Sconset. We've got the Ocean View House here as in Sunset Heights. There he also did the footbridge across from the treasure chest over to Sunset Heights, and that lovely bridge across. That bridge, I'm sure that same bridge isn't there. It's been rebuilt a number of times. He also did the Sconset Chapel. And this is the site of the Wade Cottages. It was then called Evergreen Park. And a lot of those buildings either were torn down, but a lot of them were moved, and they're scattered all over Sconset. And I'm not sure exactly where they are, but I'm sure somebody will know, probably in Eldridge will know. He also did the Surfside Life-Saving Station and the old Seacliff Inn in Nantucket. So he was all over the place. And this was early on in Nantucket's boom. And so one of the things that comes with that, he didn't do it so much in Sconset, but he certainly did it in town, is that he was part of the beginnings of the Wannacomet Water Company, which was established in 1880. And they had a novel idea about getting water to where it needed to go, was to pump it into an elevated tank. There's Mr. Robinson again. He was the director of the Wannacomet Water Company. He's in land stuff, he's in water. Not a bad combination. A smart combination, I would think. With him, who was also the secretary of Wannacomet, is William F. Codd. Now, William F. Codd is an interesting guy. Also, he was a superior draftsman and a surveyor. He did a lot of the speculative real estate drawings and everything. He was also a photographer. And I can tell because the NHA says this is a self-portrait. A lot of the pictures in the possession of the Wannacomet Water, I think they all went to the NHA, but a lot of these pictures were taken by him. So there's this map that he drew, and this map is now in the possession of the Sconset Trust. It came from the Eldridge family. It was found rolled up in the back of the W.B. Marden's office in town. W. Marden was an amazing influence on all the water business in the early days of Sconset Water. He was a Sconseter, and he had amazing influence. Anyway, so this map was in his office, and it found its way to our own water plant years later. Excuse me. So zooming in a little bit, some of the established houses, the old fish houses and everything. But over here, you've got C.H. Robinson, C.H. Robinson, C.H. Robinson, C.H. Robinson, Underhill, of course. Underhill had started his projects. But with all of this, there was no water. So where was Sconset getting its water from? Well, here's a picture of the old Sconset golf course, and there's a water tank with a windmill on it, much like you'd see in Kansas. I don't know what the party's about. Here's another, this is along the Milestone Road. About 20 years before they allowed automobiles, they were making the Milestone Road, not that they saw cars coming, but because going by horse and buggy, the ruts were pretty deep. It took them about 10 years to finish it from town to Sconset. Excuse me. Here's the Atlantic House Inn on Main Street. They've got a water windmill and an elevated water tank. Here we are back at Evergreen Park. Looks like they have a gasoline engine pumping water. Here's the house on Butterfly Lane and Baxter Road with an elevated water tank. So elevated water tanks and the power to get the water out of the ground is the way to go. Here's an unusual picture of water being, a well being driven up on Baxter Road. And another, I call this the Laura Baldwin house. And they've got a tank there. So with all the water that we don't have, or that is there, there's trying to get it out of the ground. And in 1903, the town decided we really need to do something about Sconset, and I think the Sconseters are the ones who push this out was an act 1903 to get a water system in Nantucket. It was becoming very, very famous, very populated, lots and lots more people, and there had been some typhoid scares, and it was time to do something. This is a picture of Arthur H. Gardner, who was the guy that got it through the State House. Cool-looking guy. The only problem with this that they passed it at the State House, but it went into full effect only by a majority of the voters of the town, and it took 22 years for this act. So in a special town meeting, it failed 142 to 64, and then somebody said the meeting was illegal because it wasn't posted correctly. And then a few months later, they tried it again, and they said no. 174 no's and 76 yeses, so that one didn't work. 1904, they sort of got it through, but they were able to sneak some money out there to Sconset because they were starting to build a tank over here on Burnell and New Street. So while the water bill hadn't passed, they were still building a tank. Oh, and from that same meeting, this is very funny. And, you know, we're a little paranoid out here in Sconset because we think that the town is a little slow on the upkeep for our needs out here. To see if the town will engage an expert to report on the sanitary condition and needs of Siasconset, this article was indefinitely postponed. And then to see if the town will instruct the proper board for a police detail out here, referred to the Board of Selectmen. Another really great thing in the newspaper, the Sconset Notes, I think there's 700 or 800 different ones of these in there over the years, and it's so, you know, it's chatter, it's who's here and who's coming and who's leaving, but also they've got some great stuff about what's really going on. And this was a discussion about building the new tank, and that was a good thing. The thing about that new tank is that it was only for drinking, it was only for fountains. It was not house services. It was just for people and horses for drinking water. The water lines weren't very far underground. And it's been hard to find a real picture of it, but you can see that one at the top of New Street. And here's one of Main Street looking west, and up in the upper right corner you can see that new tank. And then there's a horse trough in the square, which wasn't a square then, it was a triangle. And then a few years later, there's the new water tank on the left side with our schoolhouse and the Tavern on the Moors, which is a building that no longer exists. Here we are back on Main Street, and you should recognize that house. The Lowrys own it now, and just zooming in a little bit, there's the tank. Here's the Atlantic House again, and I'm not sure why I put that there. Okay, so we're getting back to 1913, and still trying to get that damn thing passed. They still couldn't do it. And after that meeting, these are some of the diversions I was talking about. This is an important thing about underage boys getting permits to go quahogging. That was part of a town meeting. 1914, a Sconset water question. This keeps coming and coming, and it went on for 22 years. But finally in 25, a bill made it through the State House. They redid it. They realized that the water company could sell water. And finally in September, we didn't get our water plant, but we got it okayed. Somewhere here I have one of the first meetings. During discussions could be discerned sentiments of petty jealousies, some bitterness, penurious ignorance, political grafts, and disposition to cancel every article of the warrant contemplating expenditures of money. So it's tough town meetings. So now we meet David Gray, and the house that I kept showing back there, this is the fourth time I've shown this house. That's David Gray's house on Wick. And so he had been working with W.B. Martin, who was the superintendent of the water company that didn't exist at the time. And he agreed to put up $60,000 to get the project rolling, to get a tank built, to get a water system. And one of the many things that David Gray did, he also created the Sankaty Head Golf Club, did a lot of street work, and after he died, the Rotary flagpole was dedicated to him for all the work he did, and water being one of the major ones. And here's his memorial, still in good shape, and that's what it looks like, and there's his name on the plaque. Of course, one of the things about water is that, you know, we need to drink water, safe water, but also fire protection. And that's something that scared the hell out of everybody. Nantucket had a history of things burning quite a bit. This is from 1933. Okay, one of the best of the old Sconset houses was completely gutted by fire Tuesday morning. The house was occupied by a family from New York. Evidently was set to blazing by burning cartons in the fireplace. The property is owned by Dr. and Mrs. William Walsh and was beautifully furnished with old Sconset pieces, all of which were lost. From outside appearances, the house stands as it was with all the original flora and fauna and evidence. The fireproof shingles have kept the blaze to the interior. The Sconset Fire Department responded to the alarm and had the fire under control by the time that the town department reached the village. They are to be commended on their checking what might have been a serious fire in Sconset. So finally, the world agreed that Sconset could have its own water tank. I don't have any pictures of it being built. I don't know why. Well, I wasn't there. But there just don't seem to be any. But anyway, so the water tank was built, and they also built 4 of these. I don't know if you're familiar with these, but they're under those lids were about 30-foot deep wells, and they were hand dug and lined with brick or concrete. And there was a network of underground pipes that were pumped, sucked out of there, and then pumped into the water tank. And about 10 years ago, when I had joined the Water Commission, and we were considering merging with Wannacomet for other reasons, we had these wells filled in because they're not very sanitary, and especially since they're right along the state road, Milestone Road. And here's some of the pumps. This was a kerosene-driven engine with a piston-type thing. You can see the flywheel there, and this sucked the water out of the wells and pushed it up into the tank. And here's an electric version of the same. Things are looking pretty rusty. This was only about 20 years ago. And there's the tank. Some people really miss that tank. This photo is revealing. It's kind of hard to see it. But you can see sort of on the right side, I sort of zoomed in there. There's the 1925 water tank, and then there's the earlier wooden structure in the middle. And when they put this in service, when they put the new tank in service, they tore down the old one, and wood from that was used to build some of the buildings down at the water plant, down by the ball field. Waste not, want not. And I've heard that, I've been told that when they got the tank was used. They must have gotten a good price on it. And then over on the other side, on the left side of the photograph, is the Beach House Inn, and the Beach House had its own water tank long before Sconset got their own, and they served the south side of the village. And there's a picture of the tank. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of our superintendents. Snookie, I'm going to ask you to come up in a couple of minutes. So this is Kenneth Chadwick Eldridge, and some of you may remember him. He started in 1948 as a superintendent of the Sconset Water Department, and he became an engineer in 1953 and was superintendent until 1957. From 1957 until 1978, 30 years. He was there quite a long time. There he is talking with some local residents. And Mr. Eldridge always took the flag down at the Sconset flagpole and put it up every morning and took it down every night. And he lived over on West Sankaty, and he'd walk from West Sankaty down and put the flag up, and then it was quite a wonderful thing. Also, I have a little pamphlet that he wrote in 1973. Wires. Which I have right here. It's got some really interesting items in it. I use some of this in my talk tonight. He's comparing the cost, the 1920 rates for water. The first cost at the top is for the service to your house, $12. The first toilet is $6. Each extra toilet was $3. The first tub or shower was $6. Each extra tub or shower was $3. And then if you had 3, he would charge you $12 for an outdoor hose for 3 months, because that's most people like to water their lawns and their flowers, even back then. And so, let's see, 50 years later, the first service went up to $15, and the toilet went from $6 to $7.50, and then the hose bib went from $12 to $15, and then a $50 fee to hook up to the system. Pretty nice. And he mentions the superintendents of the Sconset Water Department, the first being Willard Martin from 1825 to 1938. And then there was Alfred Smith and Wallace Deacon, Lee Topham, and Kenneth Eldridge. And since he was still working there, there you are. Now here's our friend Jerry Eldridge, and Jerry took after his father Kenneth retired. Jerry took over. Jerry had worked at the Nantucket Bank as a loan officer, and then he took over for his father in 1978 and retired in 2001. He was there for 23 years and stayed on as a commissioner. Jerry's, besides running the plant, Jerry was always on sprinkler tour, and God help you if he was driving by your house and you were watering when you weren't supposed to be. You'd get the look and maybe yelled at. But Jerry remembers his father Kenneth telling him that during the Depression, when many of the water mains were installed in Sconset, that a man was given a shovel and spent his day digging a ditch 6 feet long, 4 feet deep, and about 3.5 feet wide. They worked 6 days a week and earned $2 a day. And maybe 25 to 30 people worked at a time. So it would take them, to get maybe 170, 180 feet of pipe in a day for 6 days. And that was pretty much the case for about 20 years. Grumpy. Okay, so, here's a picture. Here's Jerry gave me this picture. That's a picture of Ernest Coffin on the right, and Jerry and Snookie's dad on the left painting the Sconset pump. The caption that was in the Inquirer says the Sconset pump in 1951, just after it had been renovated by Ernest Coffin. Mr. Coffin carefully rebuilt the pump, which had fallen into disrepair over the years. But then that lasted until about 2008, and here we are with our own DPW. They had to rebuild the pump. It was in terrible shape. And to answer somebody's question earlier, there's the original well. You don't get to see that very often. Now, I don't know when those bricks were put in, but it's still a well, and I remember dropping a little stone down there. There's still water in it. And there's our guy from the DPW, Albert Otteson, who did the work. And here's another water guy, Snookie. Always on the fire department, always doing his thing. Snookie's been with the water company, not officially, but he remembers working there, his first job at 16 years old. And Snookie's going to get up and tell a couple of things that hopefully he'll share with us. And of course, there's Snookie's late wife, Mert, who has this amazing bell collection. And Snookie, you want to come up? Lost my way there. You can speak right in that if you like.
Yeah. One of the main things, the summer that I worked, the summer that I worked in that pumping station, the old Fairbanks Moss engines had flywheels about that high that turned. To start them, you climbed on it and pulled it. I could just imagine an OSHA inspector walking in there now and seeing a 16-year-old there from 10 at night to 6 in the morning all by himself. And another thing that we did that has fallen through the cracks, for the bicentennial of the United States, my father and I put a water tap in and ran a water main into the old pump over at Pump Square. And it came out with a faucet there that you could turn on and get water to come out of. And I have been on the Nantucket Water Commission since April of 1988. And I'll still be there. Next summer, we are going to be very strict about the illegal irrigation use. If you're watering when you're not supposed to be, the water will be shut off at the meter and not turned back on until the fine is paid. The office is not open Saturdays and Sundays. So I will be out Friday night shutting them off. Thank you.
You heard it here first. Hopefully he won't get his brother out there, the two of them cruising Sconset. Look out. I just want to add a little bit more about the Eldridge family. This was taken a number of years ago, but on top of just the water, there's also the direct connection with the fire department. And this Eldridge family has been so much a part of that forever. And in the picture is on the left is Jeremy and Tanya with their now 17-year-old son, Reuben. And Jackie Eldridge, was the late Jackie Eldridge, and Jerry there. There's Snookie and Snip and Amy Eldridge and their daughter Elizabeth and Lisa Eldridge. And so it was an April Fool's joke a number of years ago when we were trying to get the tank built. This went into the newspaper, and with great apologies to Mr. David Gray. I mean, we would never take away that flagpole, but we were trying to figure out where to put the water tank, and we wanted to put it up. One of the ideas was to put it up along Burnell Street because it's really some high ground up there, but we were shied away from that because we were told that was supposed to be conservation land once the owner passed along, and the first thing that owners did when she passed along was they turned around and developed it. So, okay, so much for conservation. So we ended up putting our water tank down on the old ball field, saved a lot of time and money with lawsuits and everything. And here's the Sconset Fire Department in the school, and I'm just throw this in there because it's all related. So much of a community thing that we have here with the water in our fire department, even though we don't have one now. And of course, in the background is that very climbable Sconset water tank. So for a period of time after the company got up and going, I won't say that it was exciting times. It couldn't have been, except that maintaining the pumps and expanding here and there where necessary, as there were smaller and larger developments. But things started getting a little tired. And on around in the, I'm going to say 2010, the water company, with our engineers, decided we better do something about this tank, because it was only 120,000 gallons, and we were having a hard time keeping up with the demand, and especially with the irrigation and everything. We really worked hard to make it fair about irrigating only at night and on odd days and even days here and there. And we just couldn't keep up, and our equipment was getting old, so we just marched ahead and got some great engineers and worked with Wannacomet Water Company to finally start building our own tank. And this was the early March, I'm going to say 2009, I think. Yep. And we got all the permits and started digging the dirt. Unfortunately, we had to dig up the old Sconset ball field, but we had to get water for everybody. And I'm rushing a little bit because time's moving on. And that was a scary assignment, being up there. That's 130 feet in the air. And I had to climb up that tunnel to get that picture. So here we are. They made the tank on the ground, painted it, and then they hoisted it up. And then there it is, not all finished, not hooked up to anything yet. And then there's the crew from Chicago Bridge and Iron. Thank you very much, fellas. That was a nice job. That took about a year and a half. And right there in the middle is our water company director, Mark Willett, who's doing a tremendous job for us. And turning on the water for the first time, look at that pressure. Never would have gotten that out of the old tank. And here's the old tank. David Gray's contribution to this. It's time for it to come down. Getting a little rusty, and we had it cleaned at one point inside, and they found a flock of dead birds in the bottom of it. Nobody got sick. Shh, I shouldn't tell you this. And here's the last looking up through the bottom, up to the sky. And down it came. And all that scrap metal, we thought the tank was rusted all the way through. It looks pretty good to me, but it was too late to stop. And then that's the last of it, and now the Sconset Water Department sold the land, and now there are a couple of nice houses on that little crest of hill, nice houses and nice neighbors. And okay, thank you, crew, for that. So here we are, some of the old and some of the new, and the water department's got some plans coming up. We're going to redo most of our hydrants. We're hoping to get a sewer district change so that we can run sanitary sewer from Hydrangea Lane and pick up all the houses in that area, and also across from the water plant, so we can keep the sewer away from our wells, which are a few hundred feet very far south, and they're deep wells and they're in great shape. But we also want to use some of our land to build housing for our staff. And as Jerry would say, maybe it's getting to be time. So here she is again, and I'm going to finish up this poem. So, come and get your water at the pump. Your penny is well spent. No better place to air your views on taxes, roads, or rent. or on off-islanders who come with deadly schemes to build town waterworks and railway tracks and end our island dreams. Let city tycoons stay at home and breathe their grimy air. Come get your water at the pump. A penny a pail is fair. And with permission from Mrs. Barr, we used her pump in our logo. Thank you very much. This has been fun. Yeah. If anybody has questions or comments, please raise your hand, and if you don't have a microphone, I can repeat your questions if you have them. Anything at all. I'm wondering, is Mark Willett here? There he is. Okay, there's a question right here.
So, what's the big bulb on top of the new water tower?
The question is, what's the big bulb on the top of the water tower? Great question. You remember the old one was just a vertical column, and so the bulb is actually the storage business. So the pumps pump, it fills that, so all that water is elevated, so all of that water can be used. There's no water inside the column. So elevated storage lets you use all the available water. With a standpipe, you can only use maybe the top half, because it's pushing, it's a gravity thing. So the lower the tank gets, the more the pressure drops. But with a big bulb at the top, it's the constant pressure all the time. Yes? Yes. What he said, 85 feet was it. It didn't seem like 85 feet when I climbed it, but. Yep. Yes.
Where the wells that we're currently using,
Yep.
are they all around the baseball fields, or there are some that are more remote?
The question is the location of the wells we're using. Well, the wells that were up by the street, we filled those in about 15 years ago. We were worried about contamination. But they had dug a gravel-packed well down in the, more to the south, I would say it's west of where the ball field was. So it's about a couple hundred yards west of the water tower, the existing water tower. And there's two of them. One's a little deeper than the other. I think one is 65 feet. And the other one, in getting permitted, we were able to sink a new well within the same range as the existing well, so it didn't take us 6 or 7 years to get a new well dug. So and that's about 30 yards away from the existing one. And they're a little different. They've got different characteristics in the water. All of it's good, just the pH is a little different. And our water is untreated. So, yes. With our water tank or the one back? Yeah. Well, there were a few things going on. One was that Wannacomet had a lockdown on. They owned. It was their job to. What am I trying to say? First of all, everybody was very suspicious. Sconset, we may as well run water to Tuckernuck, one guy said that I read about. And so, it was a kind of expense. They were worried that it wouldn't generate enough money. It couldn't self-sustain itself. And Wannacomet wasn't going to give permission. I mean, they had a lock on the resource, and they weren't going to give it up. They did finally. But, I just think that, people in town, the select board and the voters thought that Sconset was a strange little place, and they can just take care of themselves. And what are they asking us stuff for? And I think to a certain extent we're still the same. So, especially with the police, right? Every year we beg for police coverage out here. Yes. Yeah, I'm very certain that. love those buildings, and I think they should be used and not torn down, because they're quite historic, obviously. And why would you do that, right? Somebody, all right. Yep. Yep. Oh, well, when you're coming from town and it looks like the tank is leaking, that's basically either condensation or it's condensation on the tank, because the water's cold in there and the water condenses and it just has to run somewhere. And especially if we get an east wind, seems to be the east wind is the wettest one, and it always soaks that east side. Oh, the weld seams. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, they're in terrible shape. Yeah. No, yeah, it's what it is. It's time to get the tank clean. There's a lot of organic stuff in the air here on the island. You know, you see a lot of lichen, and your decks on the north side of your house got that green stuff all over them. Same thing with the tank. It's just there's a lot of stuff in the air in it. So it's cosmetic. Yep. True. So the question was, our water source in Sconset is a different source than the one in town. And whether it is or not, it's true. No, but it is a different source. I mean, there's series of different lenses, and actually it's being studied quite thoroughly by our guy, Mark Willett, who's an amazing geologist, and he's really been helpful in sort of keeping tabs on what the aquifer is looking at, and pretty much figured out that we are in a different lens than the one in town. Part of a much bigger one, but we're in a different pocket than they are. Anybody else? You know, that's a great question. I think that if we were still using those, what we call the dug wells, the ones up close that really is just groundwater, they would have been gone way down. But our two sources are much further down than that upper water table is. And so I don't think we notice it. There is a sort of a master well down on Russell's Way, which is a couple hundred feet deep, and that's monitored by the state, and that's the one that they monitor for how much groundwater we have, and it fluctuates up and down a little bit. And I guess it's been down, so that's why we're still under watering restrictions. It's a good indicator, but some of these pockets of water seem to be much fuller. I don't want to get too happy here, but anyway. So I think we're in good shape. One more. Yep. And what's the name of the book again? Okay. Oh, great. Good. Well, that sounds really interesting. I know Peter Brayson. He's much taller than I am. He's taller than everybody in this room. Great. Thank you. The question is, am I conserving water at my house so people can fill their swimming pools? There's a great inequality in a lot of this that we do. And, I mean, we're not trying to be unequal about it, but that's true. We're trying not to use too much water, and yet people are filling their swimming pools. And their swimming pools are leaking and, all these kinds of things. I don't know how you control that. I think it's up to the individual, and I have a feeling someday that that our water use is going to be really, really restricted, and it's the state of Massachusetts that would do it because that's their water. All this water we're using, they say it's their water, so they get to tell us how we use it. Yep. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. The question had to do with offshore drilling, not for oil, but for water. And the article in the paper was about water. And actually, our director, Mark Willett, was a part of some of those surveys. He knows a lot about it. And they're just looking at, Nantucket is a big glacier deposit. So are the shoals. It's all part of the same system that created all this with the vineyard and the islands and Block Island and Long Island. So the structures are the same, even though there's seawater sitting on top of it. And so if inland water lenses are getting depleted, and if it's the same geology, why not go out there and test? And they've been finding water out there, and the implications are enormous, because if it's outside the U.S. district, international waters, you could make a lot of money selling water for places that don't have water globally. So it's very interesting, and it's a great question. Yes, Christine. More than we've been getting, and I think we're going to need like at least a couple of months with at least 4 inches. And I just got we have a meeting this week, and I just got the rainfall for July, and it was 0.7 inches. And I think June was 0.4, but yeah, we definitely need more rain. Okay. Oh, one more question. Yeah. Yeah, great question. He's asking about desalinization, and no, we don't hear a lot about it around here, and I think because we've been reliant on the aquifers that we're sitting on. We've been very, very lucky in this part of the country. Okay,
All right.
Thank you all very much.
So thanks, Rob. That was a great job. And thank you all for coming. We'll hope to see you again next year, and maybe some of you up here at the podium. And remember to leave your name or take a screenshot of our contact in case you want to help. And thank you, Rob. You did a great job. And Snookie, too.
And don't take all my Cheetos.